Alright, for our next learning goal 4, and remember you're going to find a new page in your journal and write this learning goal right at the top, we are going to be finding the area of a parallelogram. So make sure you write that down. Our vocabulary is all review stuff, so if you want to write it down again, you certainly may, but you don't have to. We are going to, again, be talking about area. Remember, area is how much space an object covers. So we found the area of a square and a rectangle. Now we're going to find, and a triangle. Now we're going to find the area of a parallelogram. And just a quick review, a parallelogram is a four-sided figure that has two pairs of opposite sides that are equal and parallel. Okay? Also, if you know height and base, these are going to become important later, but just to point that out to you. Alright, so if you remember, the area of a rectangle is length times width. So how are we going to use that? We're always going to build back on that because that's the easiest one. How can we use that to help us figure out a parallelogram? And right now, it doesn't really look like a rectangle, right? But watch what happens. It's fancy, right?
That's cool.
So if you take the little corner off and slide her over, now we have a rectangle. So how can we use that?
Well, so if you think about it, just cutting off that corner of the parallelogram and then moving it to the other side, once again, you're making a rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the area of a parallelogram is the same as the area of a rectangle, which is...
Remember? Length times width.
But one thing that we have to remember is a parallelogram doesn't really use length and width.
That's right. We talked about this with triangles, didn't we?
Yes, we did. So we have to look at these shapes again. Here's our rectangle. Here's our parallelogram. What you're going to notice is here's our length, and you'll notice that we can slide it over. It's the same amount of length right here. We're just going to use a different name in a moment here. We also have our height right here, and we can slide that over, or I guess that was considered width there. Now this is considered our height. So instead of saying length and width, same thing, we're just going to call it here a base and here a height, just like we did for triangles.
And you should try and draw in, go ahead and click, it's got a couple of them.
Oh yeah.
There we go. You can try and draw in that parallelogram and label your base and height because you're going to need to know those two dimensions. You don't have to write all the words that are on the screen, but just draw in that shape and label
right here
what the base and what the height is.
Very helpful.
Alright, so the tricky part with parallelograms is figuring out where the height actually is. So I have some examples here, and most of the time you'll see the height drawn from one corner straight down, and you'll see a little square in the corner, and what that means is it's a 90-degree angle, it's a right angle. So sometimes you'll see it drop down like that, and that is the height. Notice it's not the side. That is not the height. The height is dropping straight down to the base. Okay, so on a shape like this, you might see it here, but a lot of times you'll actually see a little line drop down here and a label next to it that'll have a dimension, and that's the height as well. Or, in this question, and we actually are going to do this as an example, it's tilted. So it's very hard to tell where's the base, where's the height, how are we going to figure this out. So I will show you how to solve a problem like that right now. So we've got our little blue parallelogram, and remember our parallelogram, base times height, that's how you find the area, and if you have not written this equation down, write it down. You want to know this. So the first thing we need to do is almost shift the shape a little bit so that you can easily tell what the base is. So right now I'm just sort of rotating it. So now I can see, here's my base. Okay? Now I can drop my height straight down. So if I've got my height is 4, my base is 6. Then it's just a matter of plugging it into the equation. So my base, 6, times my height, 4, equals 24. And again, we're measuring area. So we have to label it in square meters, or meters squared with a little 2, if you want to do it that way. So that's one example. Now we're going to give you another one that you're going to get to try, and then we'll teach you how to do it.
Yes. So feel free to work at this, pause, and we'll share the answer. But please practice on your own first. So looking here, once again, we have our base right here and our height right here. So we just have to multiply those. So we have 10 times 8, and that should equal, hopefully you got 80
Hopefully.
and square centimeters.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now
these ones you get to do on your own.
Yes. These are all on your own right here. There's only 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're going to try these on your own. We'll talk about them next day in class.
Yep. And notice too, we have a bit of extra information in there. We've got our base, we've got our height, but we also labeled this. We're hoping that you don't use this when you're finding the area, but just keep that in mind. We've given you extra information because you will see that. And as an added bonus,
yay!
Ta-da! Find the perimeter too.
We have to
go
remember
back
that
to
still.
Learner Goal 1. So use this information. You can find the area and perimeter of both of these shapes. So try and write those down and we'll go over them in class. Good luck!